there is such a thing as a healthy divorce. There were very, very few and far between from my experience in working with couples. I mean, I remember working with a couple that was married for 62 years.
Wow.
Okay? And he was a professional physician, and she was a homemaker, and he had a paramour, a woman that he had been having an affair with for years. And he wanted this woman to move in with the two of them. Wow. So it would be a three-way. Well,
and his wife of 60-some years wanted no part of that.
She hit the ceiling, okay? And I don't know how that turned out because they stopped seeing me prematurely. But I mean, some of the episodes that I was privy to, that I became involved in with people, it was just amazing what people went through, and the anger, excuse me, the anger that many, if not most, of the people experienced was just rampant. And then their attorneys would get involved. Of course, they used the anger as fodder to get what they wanted. The more they got for their client, the more they got for themselves. I'm sorry.
Like a revengeful act.
Very much so. Yeah. I don't believe in that system.
Well, revenge is never healthy. No matter how you look at it, revenge is not a healthy process.
Or productive. It really isn't.
Exactly.
It really isn't. Yeah. It's a tough road to hoe, but you know, there are things that can be done. People that can be consulted. I guess another thing that gets in the way is pride, and maybe that may be attributable more to men than women. Their pride in terms of not wanting to demonstrate that they are in a weakened state, but they are, because divorce is debilitating. It's extremely difficult for people to go through without suffering some kind of emotional trauma.
Well, it's a loss. I mean, it really is a loss. It's you know, I'm sure that both parties have to go through sort of a bereavement.
A woman came to me and she said, I wish, instead of getting a divorce, I wish my husband had died. It would be a lot easier for me to handle it. Right. I have so much difficulty because he's still in my life. Right. And I have to still deal with all those feelings. Right. Whereas if he were dead, I mean, I'd be able to come to some sense of closure. Right. There is no closure in a divorce situation. Right. Again, especially if there are children.
Yeah, if there's a family involved, or finances involved, then you're linked to that person pretty much for the rest of your life. So you almost have to learn the skills that you both probably should have learned to keep the marriage together. You got to learn them anyway to keep both of you living a good life apart. You know, but still communicating and still
same skills.
Same
skills. I mean, we're not talking about a new set of skills, a new set of rules, if you will. These basic skills that need to be learned, as you pointed out, would apply to a healthy marriage as well as to a divorce situation. It's hard. It's a very hard process to go through. I was amazed at some of the ways in which people manifested strength. I should talk a little bit about that in terms of the positive aspect of showing that they still cared about the person that they were divorcing. Okay, and some of the ways in which the parents worked together, where children were involved, in order to benefit the children and have as easy a transition as possible. It's always hard, but as easy a transition as possible. There were some couples whom I really admired in terms of how they brought all of their strengths to bear, despite the issues that separated them, in order to do what was best, not only for the children, but for each other. And they cared about each other enough not to let that anger rage to the point where it became destructive.
And I think that's a great point. And a lot of times you do see, the opposite. But I think if in both cases, the woman and the male, if they remember that they love this person to begin with, they married this person, so they love this person, and if you anytime you sit back and you ask yourself questions and you really look at the situation and you say to yourself, well, I married this person, I love this person, and love isn't something that disappears. Love is a choice. And I think if we ask ourselves and say, well, I love this person, let me continually love this person. Maybe we don't have the skills to live together, but we can still love each other. And by loving each other, what do? You don't have revenge on them. You try to communicate with them. You show them compassion. And through that, when you do that, when you say, well, I married this person, I love this person, I'm going to show this person love and compassion, it not only helps both of you continue and live, even though you're going to get a divorce, it still allows you both to go forth and live a good life, and your children as well. Your children will learn about love. They'll learn that love is compassion.
They're not
that
destined.
love never ends. I mean, you can separate and live different lives, but really, if you love the person at one point in your life, you're always going to love that person. If it's true love, and it's a commitment. There again, I mean, if you choose to love the person at the beginning, then I think you should choose to love the person for the rest of your life. Now, it doesn't mean you have to stay together, but still have compassion for that person. Still be nice to that person. Still care about that person.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think, though, that one of the main problems that prevents that is that both parties do not accept the circumstances that have changed in their relationship that will result in their needing to separate or divorce. Those circumstances can be very real. I mean, it's not unusual for one partner to outgrow the other partner in certain areas, okay? And to the extent that you can see those circumstances, label those circumstances, agree that they occurred, that through no fault of anyone in the marriage, okay? Yeah. That's very important. The other point I wanted to make, to piggyback on what you said, as far as the children are concerned, it used to be the case that children remarkably would follow, and I was a therapist long enough to see not only the parents and the children, but then the children as adults and getting married, they're going through divorce. The same thing. It was like history repeating itself. I will say this, though. For those parents who had a healthy, what I refer to as a healthy divorce, a caring, mutually respectful relationship even in the divorce mode, their children did not necessarily go through that same, you're going to probably get divorced too. The odds were against them, okay? So there is something to be said. Again, children are the main gauge as to how well parents handle themselves and the divorce situation as far as their kids are concerned, and their children will reflect that.
And I think too, if we remind ourselves that what is love? It's such a difficult topic. Everybody has their own definition. In love, woman and male love, mother and father love, all these different things. But I think if we look at love as compassion, and really, no matter what, have unconditional love for your wife or husband. I mean, look at our kids, for example. Our kids can tell us they hate us. They can do all these things bad and move away from us, but we still love them. And if we can do that for our husbands and wives, even though things happen where, like you said, you outgrow the other person, and it could be both going separate ways, or it could be just one. But if we can still remember to have that respect and that compassion for that person, that makes the whole situation so much easier. Instead of looking at it, this person did this to me. And if you just look at, if you love somebody, you want them to be happy, whether they're with you or not, whether they were mean to you or not. If you love them, you still want them to be happy. And I think that's something, if we can remember that will make a huge difference. And it'll help you move on, but also it'll help you, if you have that attitude, it'll help you find another mate that you can live a happy life with as well.